Okay, here we are. Okay, let's skip the prayers. I prayed in advance this time because it's the last meeting, and I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't go over time. Or let's say, I prayed before because since I always go over time, I wanted to give this meeting the most time since it's the last one. Also, I had to pray particularly hard because I didn't prepare. I've been marathoning for this outfit for Balaram Purnima, and now I'm doing Jamashtami and Nandotsava. So that's all I'm doing. That's we're going to talk about meditation these today, and that's when I'm not sleeping and doing that's all I'm doing, jewelry and stuff. So I didn't prepare today's lesson, and so whatever comes out today is really going to be a testament to the efficacy of prayer. I sure hope so. Okay, I don't have a presentation on account of that, and it'll just be me speaking, but at least I get to see your faces, or at least your names. Um, so far we've talked about prayer. We discussed prayer as in all its aspects, in its aspect of a request or a petition or to praise the Lord. So the please type of prayer, the thank you type of prayer, and then just the offering of obeisances, etc. Um, However, so some of you came with the description of prayer that is a dialogue with God. So it's been described as a dialogue in a couple of times, by a couple of you, maybe the first or second time when I asked you what you thought prayer was. Um, what it boils down to is that yes, the dialogue aspect. It's organized thought. Humans kind of distinguish themselves from animals because of speech. They all use language. They use body language. They use cry. Animals, I'm saying, not not humans. Animals use body language. They use several cries and they use smell. But humans use speech. So I also said the humans are the linking point between animality, not humans, let's say the human form, the human body and everything that comes with the human package corresponds to a level of consciousness which we call the human experience, which is the closest to divinity, or right between divinity and animality. Because keep in mind the demigods are also humans. So, but the humans, so us, are right in between the animal nature and the divine nature, and we're characterized by speech. So, the best engagement of speech is prayer. So, when we pray to God, when we speak with God, we have a dialogue with God. Krishna himself in the Bhagavad Gita says that he is japa, of course, in a different context. He says that among sacrifices, I am japa. But bottom line, japa is probably the purest form of prayer in a way, because you don't ask anything, you just kind of tune into the God's frequency, as I was saying. You don't think, you just repeat his name, and yet so much goes on. There is a dialogue. So that is the purest form of a prayer, you could say. And Krishna says, I am that. And then, so I said, prayer is the perfection of a speech, the best use of speech that you could do. And if you're not praying, you might as well be silent. So the second best thing is silence, which Krishna also says, I am silence. Again, in another context, it says, of secrets, I am silence. Meaning that, if you shut up, nobody will ever know that secret. It's the best. The best secret is to the one that is not said to anyone, because we always know that it's a secret. Don't tell anyone. Meanwhile, two or three people know it. Plus, I mean, I'm telling a community of devotees. You know that there is a joke that the fastest form of communication is not the telephone, it's not the television, it's the tele-devotee. You say a devotee, whatever it is, the whole community, the whole world knows it. Even before the internet, it was mystical. Tele-devotee is infallible. So anyway, secret. Silence is the best kept secret, and Krishna is represented in silence. So the best engagement of speech is prayer, and short of that, better you just stay silent. Of course, it's a joke, but no, I mean, it's true, but we just cannot stay silent. We're not Munis, and we cannot be praying all the time. But just to see what the ideal should be, prayer. However, I heard a Hindu guru saying that prayer is organized thoughts, organized words. And words have meaning. And meaning is filtered through psychology. You know, I may say Rama. Rama means, joy, satisfaction, or the source of joy and satisfaction. In Sanskrit, in Spanish, it means branch. I remember being in Madrid. I had just moved to Madrid, and my friend was hosting me, and she was she has an apartment in Plaza del Sol, which is like the kilometer zero of Spain. It's like the center of the center. And sure enough, as soon as I put down the suitcases, it was a Saturday, so a Harinam party came by. So I just left. I told my friend, I gotta go. And I went. And I joined the Sankirtan party. But I remember it was my first Harinam in a Spanish-speaking country. And I realized how weird it was to hear Hare Rama, Hare Rama, to hear and to say. And all these people in Madrid who didn't know the devotees, they were so puzzled because Hare Rama in Spanish means I will make a branch. I'll make branch, I'll make branch, 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 I'll make. So they were like, what is this? What is it with these people making branches and being so happy about it? Anyway, the point remains that words have a meaning, and of course meaning is attributed by consciousness, right? As Gurmach is saying, consciousness gives meaning to matter, otherwise they're just empty and insignificant. And words are the same. They are made of sound vibrations, and in many languages, a word evokes a certain reaction in somebody, but it's filtered through psychology. Like I said, so many things, like, something can be a swear word in a language and not in another one, and be a proper word in another one. Between Italian and Spanish, there are a lot of words that sound like a little weird. What is perfect Spanish is rude Italian, or ignorant, uneducated Italian, and the other way around. So, because we're talking about meditation and mantra today, mantra is different. A mantra is a sound expression, a sound representation of reality. We talked about, again, I'm going to talk about holograms again because they just help me and I like them. We talked about how reality is just a constant vibrating of atoms, and there are smaller parts of the atom, but let's just say atoms or just electrons, and they flicker in and out of existence. They exist, they don't exist. Like those lights. So many expressions, little lights that blink and they look like something is happening, but they're just going on and off, on and off. So this is like the code, the binary code of material nature, the 0101. It feels so solid. I got nothing hard. I got my head. So solid, and yet it's just atoms. There's so much empty room, empty space between the electrons, between the nucleus of an atom and the electron. So this is like a virtual room, a holodeck again, making a reference to Star Trek. What did I say all that? So vibration, since I said 0101, if you think about it, 0101, it makes a rhythm, 010101, and that is like a frequency. So everything vibrates. It's just a constant switching, positive, negative, masculine, feminine, the whole duality I've been talking about in these last three encounters. And it's a constant chasing after one another. The masculine is not better than the feminine. The positive is not better than the negative. The good is not better than the bad. They have the same balance, and they just chase one another, trying to get this equilibrium that will never be achieved, reached in the material nature by its own nature. So, vibration or frequency means, or let's say frequency means vibration. And vibration, an aspect of vibration is sound. When we think of vibration, we think of sounds. We think of a guitar string being pulled, and then as it vibrates, it makes a sound that we can perceive. Of course, so many things vibrate, and we may not perceive, or not with our ears. In new agey terms, we talk about good vibes, like this place had good vibrations, or in English, in American slang, we say, he was vibing me. Like, he was sending weird vibrations towards me, vibrations of anger, envy, whatever, vibing me. So vibrations are not only sound, but for the most part, we perceive them as sound. When we smell, nothing vibrates in our nose. When we see, nothing vibrates. Of course, it's an electromagnetic frequency that reaches our eyes, but we don't perceive it as a vibration. But when we hear, the eardrum is actually vibrating. So that's why we talk about sound. But everything, the substratum of this whole material manifestation is based on frequency, on vibrating atoms. And frequency is a very important word. Remember that I said that when we pray, we're tuning into God's frequency. And the best prayer that I can think of is, please God, let me see the world through your eyes. So you want to tune on, Goloka radio, and you see and you hear things like the inhabitants of Goloka, like Krishna, hear and see and perceive them. Otherwise, it's just interference. It's just white noise, and it sounds like it, but it's not, which is what this world is defined as a distortion. So, vibration and frequency, you can see how, I forget what it's called. I think it's called cymatic. There's plenty of videos on YouTube that you can find. I'm sure you've seen them. Somebody putting salt on a membrane or a metal plate, a metal surface, with a loudspeaker underneath. And then this loudspeaker vibrates at different frequencies, etc., etc. And as the frequency changes, the salt will take different geometrical shapes. And sometimes they start rotating and making worlds like galaxies, etc. I was really stricken by this video showing how galaxies, or it makes like a worm, etc. So it really shows how material forms are the product of atoms vibrating at a certain frequency, and that's all there is to it. And that's why, sound is the first, not physical, physical element in matter. There is the ego, then the intellect, then the mind, and then I forget what comes first, sound or hearing. But anyway, that is the very first thing. The Bible itself says, in the beginning there was the word or logos. So it's this, the concept is the same. It all starts from sound, from vibration, from a certain frequency. So it stands to reason that through sound, and this is like, basic Sunday feast preaching type of talk, but it's worth considering and talking about. It stands to reason that through sound we can find our way, our compass through this material world and out of this material world. So, like I said, the best engagement of speech is prayer, but there are these like pure sounds, like in Sanskrit you have bija mantras, gang, lang, etc., etc. Like the pure syllables, the notes, the saptaswara, the seven notes are sacred, are pure in and of themselves, and the syllables are pure. They're just pure sounds. So when we utter these sounds, even just om is the omkar, is the, which again Krishna says, I am the omkar, is the, would say, quintessential vibration. It really feels like a vibration, and it contains all the sounds in it. So prayer is the best use of speech, but then mantra yoga is better in a sense, because we saw prayer can have so many qualities, so many expressions. But if you sit down and repeat a mantra, it's higher in so many ways, because you could pray in public, make a show, like, no offense to televangelists, but you see the craziest things, like, and Lord, please, blah blah blah. They do all those things on TV, and they say they save, they heal people in the name of Jesus, and so prayer can be made a show of, or so many things, even in devotional life, even sticking to our devotional context and other expressions of bhakti. You can dress the deities so well, and everybody's like, oh, they look so well. You can sing so well, and your ego, yeah, you can be invested in your service and think, yeah, and I did that. Your kirtan, your cooking, your dressing, your classes, your whatever you do, it's you can kind of take some pleasure in it. But when you chant japa, you may make a show of how many rounds you chant, but people may or may not know it. You may or may not say it, but japa is really just you and the holy names. So you and Krishna. You can't show off. You can't. Nobody says, "Wow, you chant japa so well." It's just pure absorption, nothing to be proud of. I'm just repeating the names of the Lord. And another aspect is that in prayer, as we analyzed in the previous encounters, there's a lot of I am asking God, please God do this to me, or thank you God for how great you are, I am thanking you, or thank you for what you did to me. But when you repeat a mantra, of course meditation, it's not just Maha Mantra. Of course I'm contextualizing it, because that's what we're mostly involved with. So I don't know if I want to talk about meditation in the most generic terms, or stick to a Maha Mantra related context. Because many people meditate. A lot of celebrities now meditate, and they talk about the advantage of meditation, how it really makes them feel like they live 2 days in one, and they organize their thoughts. And like we said, even just about prayer, by praying, if nothing else, you realize what is it you want, who you are, what you want, how to get it, or at least you get it. You ask for the goal. You kind of like at least get a trajectory. I am what I think I am. I want what I think I want. And so, yeah, that's the goal. So meditation it just separates things. It just gives order. Once I gave an analogy to Guru Sundar that he liked a lot. I did Japanese pottery at some point in my life, but any pottery, when you knead the clay, you know the particles of clay are flat. They're like shingles. They're like acrylic nails. You know, a lot of women have acrylic nails and they just stick them on top of their nails. They're like this. They're like flat and rectangular, very thin. So when you knead the clay, I think it's called wedging the clay. You knead it in a circular way over and over and over, so there is repetition and rhythm. And the clay particles align themselves. They're flat, so that they all take the same alignment, kind of like when you boil spaghetti in the water, they make a toroid because the boiling water is in the center where the fire is, and the spaghetti becomes soft and they just start rolling in the same direction. Same's with clay, same's with metal shavings. If you put them around a magnet, they make a pattern. So when you so anyway, the point of kneading clay is that it makes it easier to use. When the particles of clay are all in different orientations, the clay breaks apart. You cannot make a vase. You cannot use it, make something good out of it. But when you wedge and knead the clay consistently over and over and over, you give it a pattern and a rhythm, then all the clay particles get aligned the same way and the clay responds a lot better. You can do stuff with it. We can do beautiful pottery. Excuse me. So, when you chant the Maha Mantra, it's pretty much the same. Or another example is laser light. We all have the experience of white light, unless there are some blind people among us. But let's assume that for the most part, we all have the experience of white light. It's beautiful. It has so many good qualities, and we can appreciate white light for so many reasons. But if you take those photons and you align them, you reflect them back and forth until they become organized, that's called laser. And you can do so much more with the laser. You can point it, well, you can point white light too, but I'm saying with the laser, you could do surgery. You could chop somebody's head off. You could do so much. So in meditation, we just quiet the mind, the chatter in the mind. Myself, I'm one of those people that I constantly have a dialogue in my mind, constantly talking about something. And I realized literally, recently, that not everybody's like that. Some people just, I don't even know how they go about life. They just, I don't know. They just have silence in their head. I cannot even conceive it. I have a constant dialogue and a song. I have a soundtrack in the back of my mind every single moment. Maybe not when I'm sleeping. So when you meditate, first of all, we all know that it's not a matter of emptying your mind, make void in your mind. I guess in Buddhism, they do teach that, and I don't know how they explain it and how they experience it. But from a Hindu, from a Vedic point of view, you cannot empty your mind. Your mind has to focus on something. There has to be an object your mind rests on, because consciousness is like this. So when a jiva, so when a unit of consciousness is incarnated as a jiva soul, it's covered in this subtle body, and so the mind, so just like consciousness has to have an object of its contemplation, of its meditation, if you will, so does the mind, through which consciousness expresses itself in the material environment, even more than through the body, ultimately through the physical body too. But you can be perfectly still and still, experience still have experiences as a consciousness unit, which is what meditation is. It's just you and your subtle body, which is why yoga is done, so that your body is, comfortable, stretched and pulled and balanced, so you can sit immobile, so that not even the electrical impulses from the muscles will create interference in your brain waves, so to speak. So meditation is making order of all those thoughts in your mind and focusing on one. We cannot focus on the emptiness. We cannot not focus. Like I said, it's just impossible for consciousness to not have an object to contemplate. But we can contemplate one object and only one. So that's what meditation is, or what the effort of meditation is, which kind of ties back to regularity. Prayer can be regular. You can do your prayers every day, and meditation can be done in a regular fashion every day. However, prayer, we were talking about my friend who said, I pray when I need, or I go to church when I need it, something like that. But you cannot meditate when you need. I mean, yes, if you need to really focus on a matter. Some people even do lucid dreaming. I wish I could lucid dream, but it's hard. I'll go back to it at some point. It's really cool stuff. But some people, resolve their problems while dreaming in a lucid way. Some people just sit down and meditate. And it's not like they reason really hard. They actually stop reasoning. They just listen. They become receptive. Like I was saying last time, become receptive, become feminine. And then the masculine will take over. Krishna says, what does it say? What does he say? Something like, I can't remember the word or the text, but he says basically Krishna is the creative principle. Bija, I can't remember if the word bija is used or linga, but Krishna is that. So creativity, all these artists, creative people, there's some divinity expressed in creativity, whether it's a poem or a painting. And, that comes from the divine realm where everything is new and in continuous expansion, Nava Yovanam. Because here everything is trite. In the material world, everything is just used and reused and reused. That's what nature is best at. An animal dies, it becomes food for another animal. Or plant. The plant dies and it feeds the soil, that feeds a tree, that feeds a bird, etc., etc. It's always the same ingredients. Like, some people make miniature ecosystems in huge glass bubbles. They put a little bit of dirt and then some musk. And Kanurama says, Aham bija pradapita. It must be that. I remember thinking, reading Krishna's words and thinking, oh, that means creativity, not just. But yeah, anyway, Krishna is that creativity. God is connected to creation, typically, but also to creativity. So, I was saying some people make miniature ecosystems in these huge glass bowls, put a little bit of soil, a little bit of musk, and some plants, and then they put a plug on top. And then with the light, the plants evaporate and they create little clouds, little condensation, and so it waters the soil and it creates more food for the plant. Some parts of the plant decompose and they go to feed the roots, and etc., etc. It's like a constant closed circuit. That's what this world is. That's why creativity is divine, because the spiritual world is Nava Yovana, like Krishna. Krishna doesn't know his own limits. He's constantly wowed by himself, like we saw in the Bhagavatam. Krishna saw his reflection in the shiny floor, and he was like, "Whoa, what is this? It's so beautiful." Because that's the nature of the absolute, of the infinite. There is just no limit. So when a crumb of that, when a spark of that comes in this realm through us, who are, of the same divine nature, that's creativity. Why did I talk about all that? Beats me. I need to remember that. So, meditation, collect your thoughts. So yeah, celebrities, they just focus and they solve, or people just solve a problem and stuff. But the best way to meditate is by assiduously do it regularly every day or twice a day, just time and again and again. It's like scrubbing a stain. If a stain is very old, you just don't go once. You have to go many times, and repetition has an effect that the lack of repetition doesn't give. Um, and also, you could see it in terms of what I said before at the beginning: frequency, rhythm. The same act of meditating twice a day, once a day, kind of is a way of tuning into this rhythm and regularity and frequency that I said is at the base of the material world. So, what's I talking about? So, prayer, meditation, mantra. We're talking about mantras being. So, yes, when you meditate, it's not you asking God, thanking God. It's just on your end, organizing your thoughts, making order through your thoughts, just focusing your mind on one thing, which of course comes easier and easier if you do it every day. But it's also like, I mean, half of you come from South America or tropical countries, but you may know that in places where you have snow and where you ski, you have this, what is it called? Ski lift or ski something or other, where you just, it comes with like a stick with a seat that you put between your legs, and it just takes you up the mountain. So when you chant the Maha Mantra, or let's just say any mantra, you just tap into this spiritual stream and you just get carried. Or it's like plugging, right? Plugging something into the wall. There's electricity in the wall, and then by plugging something into the circuit, all the wiring, then that energy comes through the wire, and you can blend something. So when you tap into the current of the Maha Mantra, you just get buzzed. You can't think anymore. It's That's where the dialogue happens in terms of meditation. The dialogue in prayer is again very much filtered through psychology and emotions. Whereas if you make the effort of just repeating a mantra, then things happen. It is alive, nevertheless. It's not that it's not a mechanical thing. I don't know what your experience is, but usually after the fourth round, you think, especially, if you're in a hurry, you're like, I'm just going to chant 4 rounds and then I'll put down the beats. And then you can't. Because it's like, it kind of feels good. It's like, so there is something besides your will, beside your reality that takes over, and you really feel like it's a dialogue, even more than in prayer. Although you can feel things, you can feel reciprocation in your heart during prayer too. Um, okay, I have a little story. Once at Audaria, when Audaria was just a camping ground, it was a fire pit. We had a tent that was the kitchen, and then Guru Maharaj was in a tent, I was in a tent, Chittahari was in a tent, and then there was this devotee from Portland, Josh, became later Jai Gopal, and I wonder if he's still around. So he was asking questions. After sunset, there was nothing we could do. We had no electricity. So we would just make a fire and have baked potatoes and corn on the cob. So good. I'm not much of a camper. Italians don't camp much, and not in the way Americans love to camp. If Italians camp, they go to a camping ground where everything is pre-made. But Americans like it more, outdoorsy. You put your baked potato in the fire, etc., marshmallows and all that. So I have fond memories of that. We would wrap potatoes in tin foil, and they would cook like that in the fire, and then corn on the cob. Then we would just put butter on top, etc. So in these evenings, we would just talk about Krishna Katha because Guru Maharaj was there. Guru Maharaj, Vrindaranya, Chittahari, and this Josh. And he asked a question, I can't remember, about the effects of the Mahamantra or something or other. So he asked Guru Maharaj, and Guru Maharaj had us answer. So at first, Chittahari and Vrindaranya were just answering from the book, just what happens after you chant, etc., or something like that. I don't remember their answers. I remember Guru Maharaj saying, "Oh, come on, you've been practicing, you've been chanting for 20 years or so." Was it? Let me think. Vrindaranya joined in 91, 92. No, okay, let's say 10 years. I joined in 96, 5 to 10 years. He said, "You must have had some experience by now. I want to hear your experience." So we thought for a second, and Vrindaranya said, "Sometimes when you chant, you feel like you need a million ears and a million mouths, because it's not enough." Chittahari said, "Oh, sometimes you feel like you could be doing this forever." And I said, "Sometimes when you chant, the taste is such that you cannot tolerate the split second of silence between one name and the other, and you just chant faster and faster, and that silence is always there, intolerable silence." And Guru Maharaj was so happy to see our experiences and, our, real life experience, not just the book knowledge, the theory knowledge. So yes, there's a lot of reciprocation in meditation and in prayer. That's a point worth bringing up in general. There is a person on the other side. So let me take a break, and after this introduction that was all over the place, because like I said, I couldn't prepare for this week. Incidentally, I need to go to the bathroom, but remember that we talked about the instance of two nations praying for victory, praying the same God for victory, but only one wins. I'll be gone for 30 seconds. If you want to write your thoughts about it, if you have given it any thought, we'll be discussing that because we can tie it to the rest of the discussion and just finish a topic I talked about in the previous encounter. So I'll be right back. There. Am I the only one who went to the bathroom during the lesson? Sorry, but let's see. I don't see any. I don't know if somebody's writing an answer, or I mean, if I should wait or not. But I'll just start speaking. So the scenario is this. And I thought about it when I was watching a movie about Queen Elizabeth and Philip something, Philip the First, or so anyway. England and Spain were at war. That's how the pirates came about. They were intercepting all the ships coming from South America with all the gold and all that. And there was a lot of interest. So anyway, England and Spain were at war, and they were Christian. One was Catholic, one was Protestant. So this king, Philip the First, was a very fervent Catholic. I mean, Spain in the 1500 was like, so he had like his castle. I saw it in Toledo. There was like an altar in every room, just like nice from our point of view. But he had this like very staunch, strict Catholic view. So therefore, he wanted to win over the Protestant and wrong Queen Elizabeth. Bottom line, so they even had altars on their ships, etc. I don't know that the English had altars on their ships. Bottom line, they were two Christian countries praying God for victory, but only one of them won. And I saw a meme from, I don't know, an atheist commenting on that. People pray to God, but so how does it work? Only one nation wins. And atheists are notorious for talking about what they don't know, and they'd be better off not speaking. But religious people also have, you could say, superstitious or sometimes very basic concept of God. Being a religious person doesn't make you a religionist. It's there are theologians for that. Not everybody has the kind of mental or intellectual capacity to understand and study all these topics. So a lot of religious people can be quite basic in their understanding and think, like the atheists think, that God is like, a soft drink machine. You put the coin and you get your Coca-Cola. I prayed and now I'm going to get my result. Yeah, maybe the demigods are like that. The demigods are also bound by the laws of nature, cause and effect, action and reaction. So as much as they are divine in our eyes, or compared to our, what we can do, the demigods, if you pray to the demigods, they're more bound to fulfill your prayers. Kind of like when Kunti prayed to the sun god to try out the mantra that Durvasa gave her, and then the sun appeared, and she was like, "Oh, it works." And he's like, "Yeah, and you prayed to me for a son, so I got to give you a son now. But I'm a virgin. All right. Well, you'll be pregnant in your ear, and karna means ear, will come out of your ear, and your virtue will be intact. So when you get married, your honor will be intact." So the demigods are bound by the prayer. God is not. Sorry, I read a question and I got distracted. God is not bound by the prayer. The very concept of God as the supreme controller, the supreme independent, if he's bound by our prayer, he's bound by love, like the Damodarashtaka says, Bhakti Baddham, to make the point that it's not the little rope that Yashoda tied around Krishna's belly that really tied he who is the absolute, the unmeasurable, the omnipresent. If he's everywhere, how can you tie him with a little ribbon? It's the love of Yashoda that managed to tie him eventually. And the story, we all know the story, that there were always 2 inches missing. She would tie the rope around his belly and it was always short. And then she took the ribbon from her braid and that was enough. But the point is that the 2 inches are the effort and the mercy, which we also talked about. So for you to embrace and capture the absolute, you can do whatever you want materially. You can do so many things, but it'll never grant you. Of course, whatever you want can come under the category of effort, but then there's the other inch, which is mercy. So, if our prayers get granted, get listened to, it's because of the love, bhakti baddham. Krishna is tied, vinculated by our love, not by the prayer, not because we just said once, oh God, please make us win the war. And God is like, sure, person who never prayed to me before, or who prays to me for material gain. Again, there is a person on the other side, which is how I began. A person with a personality, a person with likes and dislikes. So, prayer and meditation are best performed when we do know that they are a living thing, just like we are living. So there's a living person on the other side. Well, yeah, you don't pray to the Brahman. So Paramatma or Bhagavan are persons, and we are persons. We have this concept, this conception of being, notion of being persons. So we would really miss out if we prayed in such a way that kind of, if our prayers were or felt like, we treat God like a coin operated machine. Did my prayer, I'm going to get my result. No, it depends on other factors. So I had some notes on this point. Let me see if I'm missing something. When two countries are at war. Yeah, and also what's important, what people who pray regularly, people who do have a notion of God and what it's like to pray to God, they know that, like I closed last time, the prayer, and that's where the translator is going to freak out because the word is the same in English but not in Spanish. Prayer is done for the prayer. La oración es por el orador, not for the prayed. It's not for God. God couldn't care less, does not need our prayers, is not bound by our prayers. Like, as a elementary school student, when I was a schoolboy, I was making, the teacher was having us make little ashtrays for Father's Day out of whatever it was called. In Italian, it's called das. Ultimately, it was concrete. It was some kind of cement. So we would mold these little ashtrays, like, here, happy lung cancer, daddy, or I guess. For Father's Day, we would give our father an ashtray, because that was the mentality in the 70s and 80s. But my father didn't need that. He could buy 1,000 ashtrays if he wanted. But yet, he had it on his living room table every evening. Luckily, my father, I don't know luckily for whom, but luckily my father was a smoker. So every time, he would use that crusty, nasty ashtray made by a 10 years old kid, because it was made with love. So the same is with the prayer. There is a video of, I wanted to look it up, but again, I haven't had time, of this cat that the owner throws on the bed, and the cat runs back to his human and waits for him with his arms, front paws up, like, pick me up. And so the guy picks the cat up again, throws him on the bed, and he runs back and waits for him with his hands up. So it's kind of cute, because that's how God sees us. When we pray, it's like, oh, these little things reaching up to me. So if he does grant our prayers, it's because of the love that we express, and so he reciprocates with love. And that's why only one country wins. First of all, when you pray to God, especially for material gain, you're really just praying to Maya Devi. You're praying to God's energy, like the most external aspect of his energy. It is God, and it's not God at the same time, as we all know very well. It's Bheda Bheda. So, yes, God may fulfill our prayers, but it's really the material energy making all these things happen. Because as we know, God, in his supreme aspect, when God expresses his supreme personality, he doesn't even know we exist practically, in a sense. He's so lost in being the son of Yashoda, in what game to play next, in, chasing after that little calf that ran. And there's a song by one of our acharyas saying that Tahara prarthana shune Shri Nanda Kumara. I forgot what comes after, but he says Nanda Kumara will listen to the prayer of that person. One more thing that I couldn't research. But anyway, Nanda Kumara, not the Paramatma, not Narayana, not just God in general. So a certain prayer made with a Vaishnav heart, a Vaishnav sensibility, will be listened to directly by Govinda. Otherwise, it's just God in general. And so, for all intents and purposes, it's Maya Devi as the secretary of God making these things happen, like winning a war, of all things, with all the killing and all the material interests, invested in a war. So that's what happens when one country wins and not the other, even if they both prayed. It was just the karma of the nation, in a sense. But, like I said, there are other factors. The consciousness of the prayer, what you pray for. Let's see, I had some other notes about that. And yes, a person who prays knows that the result is secondary, because they pray for themselves, for their own benefit. They pray so that for that one moment they are aligned, like I was saying in the past. There's nothing wrong. As long as you're in a prayerful attitude, you're doing good. Like I said before, speech prayer is the perfection of speech. And then the attitude, the prayerful attitude, is the best attitude we can have to navigate in this material world. That's why we pray. Then if we get the result, even better. But it's not how the atheists see it, because they don't have any experience of that. They just judge without knowing. And some of them are disgruntled, usually Christians, who thought they experienced God. They just experienced religion, and badly applied religion, and then they become atheists. And still, they are all among those who talk without knowing what they're talking about. So yeah, the spirit behind the prayer is also important, because think of Jarasandha. He was a Vaishnav. Jarasandha was very strict in his vows. He was making sacrifices to Vishnu, to Narayan, giving charity to the Brahmanas, because it's good for you, with the material attitude in his heart. And he was inimical to Krishna. I mean, he was praying to Vishnu. So praying is not enough. There was another demon in Krishna book. I can't remember his name, who was a Vaishnava demon. There was that guy who thought he was Krishna. He wanted to convince people he was Vishnu. He had like a bunch of arms. I can't remember. So the feeling behind prayer is the prayer alone is not enough. It's the feeling. And that's how we're pretty much running out of time. I said 1/3 of what I wanted to say. Oh well. So yeah, meditation, it's not passive. It's like interactive. You just tap into the spiritual stream, like plugging in the wall, and then things happen. Another aspect of meditation and prayer that I touched on many times is envisioning, manifesting, right? In the highest expression of our devotional service, there is this meditation, like Srinivasa Acharya. There's this whole leela of these devotees going in meditation and acting in the leela in their spiritual form. And then he was a manjari, and Radha was sporting in a lake or something, and she lost an ankle bell. And with Shamananda, there was a similar story, etc., etc. So they tune into the Nitya Lila. And how do you do that? Well, they were special devotees. But even in our practice, at the very end, we just sit down and we may just sit down and think of ourselves as a gopi, as a gopa. We start getting impressions in our heart based on what we like, what our guru brought out from us, etc. And we like manifest that reality. You know, Marisa Peers is a famous hypnotherapist. She's the hypnotherapist of Olympic athletes and the Royals of England, and she has millions of followers on social media. And she says that for the brain, there is no past or future. There's just what's happening. And she's not the only one. All kinds of neurologists, etc. They say that for the brain, to think and to remember is the same. To experience something and to remember the experience is the same. So she says, don't think, oh, I will become rich, I will become rich, I will become rich. You have to see yourself getting the promotion. You have to visualize yourself coming out of your boss's office after he's given you the promotion. You feel the smile on your face, feel the joy of going back to your, I'm making it up, of going back to your wife and saying, I got the promotion. We can afford the new house in 1 year. We can afford the car, the boat, the whatever, university for our children. Because for the brain, it's the same. It's if you feel like you've already achieved something, it kind of sets matter in motion in a certain way. So you manifest your own reality. Like I said, ultimately, we are alone. We are the center, the unit of consciousness in this whole world. We all live in our own material bubble. They may coexist, but we are the Ishvara of our own created, albeit fake, universal bubble. The body is is a material expression of our state of consciousness, and by extension, the whole world. Because whatever we see, whatever we hear, wouldn't be there if we didn't have the body, the ears, the eyes, the nose. So it's all an extension. The tree is in front of me. Anybody else can see the tree, but we all perceive it differently. So we just extend into matter and pervade it with our level of consciousness. So, with meditation, it could be like for stupid things like getting a promotion, but if you do that in a spiritual way, well, that's how you do it. You just you could petition the Lord, oh please, please, which is fine. And Prabhupada himself says we should chant the Mahamantra in a prayerful way. You know, we should cry like a baby, because, like I said, there is no amount of effort, especially with our material mind. We cannot focus on the absolute and achieve it unless and until the absolute reaches down to us. And that's why we will never be able to envision us as a cowherd boy or a cowherd girl and attain it. That goes against all we've been talking about so far, the whole point of bhakti, the whole point of love. It just makes God powerless. It's like, look, he meditated on me, he became so good, and now here he is in Vrindavan. Now I got to play with him. Now I have to, you know. So in our path, there is, you know, a big component of meditation, and I wanted to spend so many more words on manifesting reality, etc. But there is always this prayerful attitude that will make us successful. So unfortunately, we've run out of time. Let me just read the answers and wrap it up. It's kind of sad because these are, you know, this is stuff that's worth talking about and engaging in. So Govinda Mohini says, I thought I'm not sure what that means. I thought that a samsara is created where the clashing is continuous and eternal until one begins to wish something higher. Yeah, but in what context? In the context of the war between the nations? I'll let you time. I'll leave you time to answer, and then I'll read what Sharada says. I like the idea of tapping into the mantra. I've had experience of reciprocation ever since I have been having practice. I've been practicing with an attitude of tapping into Krishna Prema, as if I'm dipping my feet into his lake or ocean of love of the Absolute with a mood of ecstasy. The reciprocation is in the form of answers coming to me, to answers coming to me to questions which I've had in my mind, but not actively asking the Lord. Has anyone else had this? And I'm wondering if this is a real response to actual prayer. I remember a meme that Gonarayan made. He was into making memes at some point, and there was one that said, "I love chanting japa because I get so many nice ideas." And it's true. You can get a lot of ideas when you chant japa, because again, your mind relaxes and focuses on one thing alone, and then, like I said, we tap into this creative energy, so we become creative and we get. But that's not the point. Why did I say that? So yeah, reciprocation. We get answers to questions we don't even know we had. So yeah, it does happen a lot. There's a lot of impressions in our heart. It's not like we actually hear words, but now I don't know if there's going to be time or if it's the proper channel to for anybody to answer, but anybody's welcome to answer. I did feel like, there's a book called Bhavataranga Rangini, I think. Bhavataranga means waves of bhava. And I remember once really feeling some feeling, and it came as a wave, like, and it's really humbling. It's like, oh my God, why me? Why? What have I done? I don't deserve it. But it just comes like waves, and it's yeah, meditation, especially japa meditation, is really nice. Let's see. Daneshwar says, how to cope with the distraction in japa. Okay, I'll be a nonconformist and answer from the point of view of TM. In transcendental meditation, once I took initiation in transcendental meditation, the Maharishi Mahesh Yogi people, and they said, they give you this mantra, and they said, don't force it. They give you a certain mantra which is different for anybody and for everybody, and they say don't force it. So they say flower, not to say the mantra, because they don't want to dilute their potency. Now we know that the Mahamantra will never get diluted, but anyway, in their concept they say flower when they talk about the mantra, and so they say focus on flower, 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 but don't make it stay in the center of your mind. Sometimes it will go louder, sometimes it will go softer, sometimes you get distracted. Just gently bring your mind back to flower, flower, flower. Sometimes it goes, like I said, softer, faster, louder, etc. And sometimes it disappears. Just don't force it. Be in this receptive, feminine attitude, and bring in the masculine principle, which is, Krishna. And just don't struggle. And also just live live 5 minutes at a time. You don't have to achieve perfection all at once. You could, but it's normal to get distracted at first. That's probably where prayer. What's going on? I hope it's not some. Oh, it's a bird. Sorry. You could pray. That's how you could do both things. You could pray for your japa to be better, so you're engaged in prayer and in japa. But it's very normal to be distracted. Just don't fight it. Like I said many times, I'm a positivist. I'm not. I don't. I try not to focus on. Oh, I need to overcome Maya. I need to just. Oh, Maya, Maya, Maya. Eventually, you're thinking. You're meditating on Maya. Think of Krishna. Think how nice Krishna's name is, and you get distracted, whatever. Don't think, I'm getting distracted, I'm getting distracted. Because again, that's what you're manifesting, that's what you're imbibing your consciousness with. You realize you're getting distracted, bring it back, and over and over and over until you attain the stage of nishtha. And then when you attain ruchi, which means taste, you will naturally be, chanting and thinking of Krishna. And sometimes you will have to think of other things, talk about other things, but with Krishna in the background. But I don't know at what stage you are, how young or old in this practice you are, but don't get discouraged by distractions. Just take it in stride and just keep chanting. That's the secret. Just don't stop. So I'm really sad. I said so much less than I thought I would say, but we're out of time, and I could go on, but again, I got to do this finish the jewelry and the outfit, and I don't have a second to spare really. So I thank you all for this engagement, Padmanabha Maharaj for engaging me in this service and asking me, and you all for your patience and questions, and my Gurudev for for being the inspiration I prayed to, and for giving me any knowledge and experience. If I have anything to talk about, it's all thanks to him. And I don't know, if I'm asked to do this again, I will try to oblige, and hopefully it won't coincide with a season of festival, so I'll be more, less busy. Otherwise, I would just close there, and I'll see you all in the other classes. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. And you're all in my prayers as usual.
Syamasundara Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Haribol Guru Maharaj ki jai.
Haribol. Jai.